Good evening, everybody. What's up? What's up? What's up?
Hey.
We're glad to be back. So happy to be back. Kinda. Why you giggle? We going live on multiple streams and platforms tonight. So tell somebody to tune in, and check us out. Check us out. Tune in. We are going live. Something's going crazy there. Hey. Hey, what's up?
Oh, hey, everybody logging in. Hey. Share.
I don't know what's up with this one.
What, Periscope?
No, not Periscope. Periscope is
IG.
fine. We're going live, doing our very first Periscope. I don't know if anybody's going to join in. Chestnut, what's up, man? Well, I guess that's done. Somebody came in.
Some more people are coming in.
And we just about to get live.
Wow.
Tonight, our connection is we are talking about, we're talking about relationship revolution, and we're going to get into how to have a hard conversation. We just came back on from vacation, and this is something that we have learned. I'm not sure. Instagram, you guys tell me what's best in terms of how this looks for you. Is this better? Is this good? Can you see us both? I don't know. You can't really see us both.
If you like, maybe
I guess we'll just leave it like this. All right. So we're gonna get started. But everybody, please share. Everybody, please share, so we can make sure that this word gets out to everybody.
Everybody.
I know, it's everywhere. It's crazy. All right, cool. So we just came back from vacation, and it was a great vacation, relaxation and recuperation. One of the things we like to do when we go on vacation is we like to reconnect and do a check on how our relationship is and what's happening and what's going on. We do this usually at birthdays. We do it at anniversaries, and we do it on vacation. At least I do. She doesn't always like to, but it's a time of reflection and relaxation.
It's good. It's good.
Yeah.
I mean, I married him because he pushes me to my greatest self. So sometimes that push isn't always fun, but it's good.
Yeah. So what we do is while we're there, sometimes in the busyness of it all, while we're living life, we don't always get a chance to connect and have conversations. And sometimes all of those conversations are not fun and yay, this what hey, and you're great and you're wonderful, which ultimately you are great and you are wonderful. But sometimes we have to have difficult conversations or hard conversations.
Because relationships are work.
That's right. Well, not work in the sense
in a bad way, but it's just that you can't tiptoe through the tulips the whole time during your relationship.
Yeah.
There are some things that you have to stop and talk about.
Yeah, and if you want to make sure that you enhance your relationship, then it's important that you have conversations that are sharpening, iron sharpening iron, and that really help equip you for longevity and for legacy or whatever it is that you're trying to build. So in doing that, then sometimes you have to have a hard conversation. And it doesn't mean anything's wrong. It doesn't mean that you don't love the person. It's just as you grow and as you evolve, and sometimes things build up and you don't get a chance to say what it is that you want to say, so you have to create space and time to say it. Are you all with me? Y'all agree? Y'all feeling that? Y'all not feeling that? Y'all hear what we're saying? All right, so we wanted to talk about relationship revolution, bringing about a change for the better for your relationship and how to have a different conversation. So because we are believers, kingdom citizens, we begin with the biblical premise. The biblical premise is Proverbs, the 15th chapter, verse 1 and 4. Proverbs 15, verse 1 and 4. It says, a gentle answer deflects anger, but harsh words makes tempers flare. Gentle words are a tree of life. A deceitful tongue crushes the spirit, crushes the spirit. That's Proverbs 15, 1 and 4. A gentle answer deflects anger, but harsh words makes temper flare. Gentle words are a tree of life, and a deceitful tongue crushes the spirit. So the first thing that we like to say when it's time to have a difficult conversation, or a tip, if you will, that we like to offer in having a difficult conversation is, number one, be prepared. Everybody write that down. Be prepared. Make sure that in the preparation of a conversation that you actually think about what it is that you want to talk about, that you want to discuss. So this isn't some random venting conversation, you mad and you going off. This is an articulate, intelligent conversation for the health and the benefit and welfare of the longevity of your relationship. That's right. So be prepared. So in being prepared, you want to think about your concerns, your thoughts, your ideas. You want to make sure that you show up with facts, right? And not just random stuff, one-offs, as we call it, this one random situation of something happened and then it never really happened again.
And you just make it a blanket statement.
That's right.
Versus them being some facts, as you stated. That's
right. So you want to keep up the conversation, make sure that you talk about what you're going to talk about. So in doing this, you want to gain a better understanding of the issues. Maybe misunderstandings have happened, and you want to make sure that you confront the situation, not your spouse. Okay. Make sure you confront the situation, not your spouse, and understand that the hurtful behavior perhaps wasn't intentional, and that the best interest was at heart. So number one, be prepared. So in being prepared, you might want to start the conversation with, like, acknowledging that, hey, this is going to be a difficult conversation. It might not be, all roses, but it's going to end well. It's going to end better than it actually began, right? There's going to begin and this might be a little touchy. It might be a little sensitive, and you want to clarify that you may have different perspectives on the same issue. And so I'm not diminishing or talking down to your perspective of the same issue. I just came to share the issue. And we always say that whoever calls the meeting gets to start the conversation and lay the groundwork for the conversation. So if you call the meeting, if you call hey, I need to talk to you, then you are prepared. You have the theses ready. You have the conversation ready, and you set, in a sense, the ground rules. Does that make sense?
Right, because when we use that phrase, if you call the meeting, it's not the other person's opportunity to come back or to be compatible in a sense, but it is, you have to take that posture that if you didn't call the meeting, that you came to listen, and you have to be prepared when they're telling you that I got some touchy things to talk to you about. You have to get your mind and your spirit ready and prepared to listen, and not to figure out a way to come back or to take over the meeting and make it your meeting because you didn't have the courage to ask for a meeting.
That's right.
In preparation, the other person that is being called to this meeting, your preparation is listening, and not listening to combat.
That's later.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Make sure that you don't jump ahead.
Okay.
All right. And so the truth is, in being prepared, this is in a marriage relationship, or it's also in any context where it has to be a conflict, or a conflict has arose. So you be prepared, and you start off, hey, this could be touchy. You clarify that we might have different perspectives, but you want to walk together and work together for the greater solution of the relationship. The end goal is to salvage or restore or heal or bring health to the relationship. That makes sense? That's the goal. And then also in that whole preparation is that you understand that this is a process for the person that called the meeting, and a process for the person that is receiving the information. And because it's a process, that doesn't mean that you start off like in 5 minutes and then, let me try to give a solution in it all. But you understand that this is going to take some time. It's going to take some work. And I would even say that you even preface in your mind that it's going to take some time. Yeah. And if you put in your thought process that it's going to take some time, you allow the conversation and you allow what the other person has prepared to say, to give it some time in there, and not just try to come with a quick statement or a quick
come back.
Yes, that's very true, because the person that's been thinking about the conversation, or the person that called the meeting, has been thinking about it already, so they've already processed it. So give the, not only are you giving that the receiver of the information a time to hear, but you're prepared, so let them get prepared. That's number one. Everybody, right? Be prepared. All right, number two, here we go. So number two is be respectful and loving. Be respectful and loving. Now, you shouldn't have to say this as a ground rule, but this is why I say in preparation that you don't start off because you're angry or mad, right? So being respectful and loving is understanding that the person that you're communicating with is going to probably be defensive or emotional. Your spouse in particular, as my wife always says, never wakes up to give you a bad day or give you a headache, or usually never tries to make your life hell. And so therefore, if you bring them a situation, 9 times out of 10 in the beginning, they're going to be defensive or feel like they need to come back or respond. And the truth is that you have to allow them to have space and time to deal with their defensiveness and emotional as you talk, and understand that love and respect is the language of relationships. When it comes to men and women, women interpret love or feel love by the way you treat them, talk to them, carry yourself, and deal with them. Men, the same way, they feel love through the lenses of respect. And so respect and love has to be the ground rules. Be loving, be respectful has to be the ground rules. And again, you're talking about a situation, or talking down to the situation, and not talking down to your spouse. And so that's a tricky thin line that you have to manage, because most people, they will go hard at talking down to their spouse, but not necessarily, or mixing up the talking down to the spouse versus the talking to the relationship, or to the issue, or to the thing that you're trying to solve. So when you are being loving and being respectful, then your spouse knows that you want to talk, and then they are ready to listen without interruption.
And I think that this second part, being respectful and loving, that sometimes in the conversation you might have to say, listen, when you see the person that is listening, or the person that is the recipient of the conversation, if you see that they're getting uncomfortable, I feel that being respectful and being loving is to just reiterate to them, I'm not talking down to you. Like, I see your defensive going up, and I want you just to know I love you, and I want our relationship to be better. And I don't think inserting those words sometimes and helping the person that has to be the recipient of that is sometimes you might have to, kind of in between the conversation, remind them of love. It's not because they don't believe that you love them. It's just that at that point they feel like you're just, your finger is at me, and it's not. They forget that it's a relationship, and we're trying to betterment our relationship. So I think being loving and respectful on the person who is giving the information, just to make sure that you kind of do that checkup while you're giving your information and your facts and your statements, that you are checking up on the person. So because at the end, you want both of you to win. That's right. And you just manage that by the way that you continue to manage the way that you speak. And you have to, in being loving and respectful, you also, the flip side of that is that the other person can't just be trying to manipulate the conversation by being overly emotional and sensitive. Like, grow up and deal with the fact that this conversation is to make our relationship better. And so because it's to make our relationship better, even if this is a hard thing that I have to say, don't play emotional manipulation games and try to win or get me to, or get the other person to get off conversation, right? And so being loving and being respectful is a part of the ground rules. And once you've established that, I think that sometimes you don't have to keep reiterating it, because sometimes it can be divisive. And I've been on both sides. Usually I'm initiating the hard conversations because my wife, not because she doesn't have hard conversations she wants to have, but because she doesn't like conflict. Whereas me on the other side, I don't like harboring feelings or emotions that are unexpressed. So once I've got my head around it, I want to have the conversation so that I'm not harboring anything that's not necessary. So therefore, in the initiation of those conversations,
I've had to learn how to hear through the lenses of love, and she's had to learn how to hear through the lenses of love. And the reason why being respectful and loving is so important is because when you are having these conversations, you can be passionate, right? So you're passionate. So if I'm yelling, I'm not yelling at you. If I'm excited or passionate or hurt, it's not because of you, it's perhaps because of the scenario or the situation. And learning how to separate the person, the situation from your spouse or the person you're communicating with is absolutely essential and important. Hey, Isaac, how are you, man? And so look, so check it out. Number three. So our third thing is be intentional about your outcome. Be intentional about your outcome. So make sure you type that down. So number one, be prepared. Number two, be respectful and loving. And number three, be intentional about your outcome. So if we sit down and we have this conversation, what do you want to accomplish? What is it that you're looking for out of this? What's the solution? What's the end game, right?
And that's so essential because it's like, if not, then you'll just be talking around in circles and talking about stuff you don't have no business talking about, or in some cases, manipulating the situation and start taking it to a whole nother level versus what the outcome is supposed to be. So when you establish that outcome, you know that that's the end that you want.
Yeah, you're being intentional about the outcome. I mean, some conversations are okay to be had to be a vent, right? I'm not really looking for a solution, and men are good at this. If your wife or a woman comes to you with the issue or concern, immediately, more than hearing the dragged out version of it, we want to solve it immediately. We want to fix it right away. And sometimes they're not wanting us to fix it. They're wanting us to listen and to hear. And guys, sometimes it depends on how your wife is and how what the angle is that you're coming at in the conversation. Sometimes ladies can be the same. And so is this a venting conversation? Am I looking for a solution? Am I just trying to vent? Am I trying to find somewhere or someplace to be honest,
or
right?
Am I just processing?
Yeah.
And wanting to having somebody to have you to vent, right, to some feedback. Maybe I don't want you to have a solution.
Yeah.
Maybe this is not the end all of the be all. This is just kind of preparation, and I'm just sharing my heart with you.
That's right.
And that's really very essential in kind of knowing what the outcome is.
That's right.
Because I've sometimes interpret, oh, okay, well, we just need to do this. And he's like, no, man, I'm just trying to tell you what I'm thinking through.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean I'm trying to make this decision or do it right now. And so I think make it and understanding as a couple in a relationship that what is the outcome? Is this just a venting thing?
That's
Are
right.
you just telling me what's on your heart and you want to share your heart with me? Or is it something that you want me to help you to process through? Right. And I think sometimes people get that mixed up and they don't always say what their outcome is. Right. And so then the conversation goes to a place that you didn't want it to go. And then you feel like, I can't talk to that person anymore.
Right. Yeah. And so the point is, when you think about it, what you say? And the point is, when you think about it or when you consider this, then a good way to start or begin this conversation is saying words like, I've been thinking about, hey, I've been thinking about, because that's not putting a blame or a point on the person that you're talking to, but you're saying, this is what I've been thinking about, or this is how I've been feeling. Right. That's right. This is how I've been feeling. Or if you're looking for a response, what do you think about XYZ, XYZ? Or if it's just a conversation and you're really looking for dialogue, then I'd like to talk to you about. Why don't you type those just to make sure you heard me, right? Yeah. So good conversation starters when you are intentional about an outcome is, I've been thinking about, hey, I've been thinking about blah, blah, blah. I've been thinking about, this is how I feel. Feel. Or what do you think about? What do you think about? Or I'd like to talk to you about. Those are ways that you can start. Or even if you're looking or seeking reconciliation or understanding, you can say, hey, I'd like to get a better understanding about, or what was your perspective when you started, or when you saw this, or when you did that, or when you heard that, or when you felt that, right? Because those things are open-ended questions that come without antagonizing or pointing fingers or pointing the blame. It puts the ownership on your place, your responsibility, and how you think or feel, or the other person thinks or feel, which is creating an atmosphere for dialogue. Does that make sense? If that's good, let us know that that's good. And please make sure, if you just logged on, share, so we can keep the conversation going.
And you have to also remember that the person that is initiating this conversation, this is their truth. This is their truth.
Yeah.
And this is reality for them, and this is reality from where they come from. And I think when you're in a loving relationship, you need to understand that the person that is saying something to you, that this is their truth.
That's right. And that's the next point, is be truthful and transparent, right? So be truthful and transparent. So when you are being truthful and transparent, as she just said, nothing's off limits, right? So especially if you're in a marriage situation, right? Mm-hmm. If you are married, there is no conversation I cannot have with my wife. There is no conversation whatsoever about anything, about how nothing that's crazy that's going on in my head, nothing that's crazy that's going on in my heart and my spirit and my emotions. There can be nothing off limits. I have to be able to tell her the truth 100% and know that she can hear me without using it against me, and know that she can respect the ground rules. And that's true on both sides. Right. That on both sides there can be nothing. I can't trap her or lock her inside of her head, right, or her heart of any feelings or any emotions that she can't express, because expressing it to me is absolutely essential, and it's what I want. Because right, if she's not talking to me and she can't be truthful and transparent with me, then who is she being truthful and transparent with? Right. So either she's trapped inside of her head and her emotions, or either she's able to express that in some type of way. And for me, I always tell my wife, hey, babe, I have to be 100% truthful and transparent with you on every and all levels. And this is my truth. This is my truth no matter what.
And I concur. And I think that sometimes I have heard women say, I feel trapped. I feel like I can't express myself because I don't know. Like, I think we just came out of a conference just talking to people, and one of the people in the audience was just saying that they felt trapped with their spouse. They felt that they couldn't be honest. They felt that their spouse couldn't handle it. And they were like, you could see them welling up with emotion because they could not express truly how they felt in a relationship where you're supposed to be able to be in Eden. You're supposed to not only be naked like fleshly, but also naked in your emotions.
That's right.
And naked in your soul. Just this is what my soul is bearing, and I want to be able to express that. And if you are the person that is the respondent to somebody bearing their soul and you can't handle it, you need to go and ask God to help you to have capacity to be able to handle your spouse. And I believe that you're anointed for your spouse.
Well, I mean, you can go and pray about it, but even if you don't go pray about it, have capacity. Yeah, like, you can't ask for deep, calleth out for deep. You can't ask for a deeper relationship and for depth and then be shallow when it comes to conversation and communication and inability to hear truth and transparency. Right. And after all the establishments have been laid, right, it's important that neither person feel like they need to suppress their feelings or their emotions in order to protect their heart or protect their feelings. My heart should safely trust in her. My ability to confide in her, my secrets, my dreams, my hopes, my the things that I aspire to do and aspire to do. All of those areas cannot be off limits when it comes to my communication capacity or her communication capacity to be able to express to me what she hears, what she feels, or what she thinks. And so no oppression or suppression of your feelings, because oppression or suppression of your feelings or your emotions or your thoughts are absolutely unhealthy. Yeah. At some point, that truth and transparency is going to come out somewhere. And so it's going to come in a way that you don't want it to come. That's right. And that you didn't intend it to come. And so you have to make sure that you curtail and you tailor that conversation, and that you try to be as truthful as you can and test the waters of your relationship. You don't know. My husband gave a great analogy. He said, I didn't know that my wife could have a baby. I didn't know that her body could expand that way and then pull back, because I had to test her capacity. And in some relationships, I believe you have to test their capacity, and you can't base it upon your last relationship, because your last person that you was with. And I think sometimes we take things from old relationships into new relationships, and we don't test the very thing that we wanted, that we felt, that we desired, and we were asking God for, that is given to us, but we don't have it
because we didn't test it.
That's
we
right.
didn't test the capacity.
Yeah, and it's essential and it's absolutely important in building the capacity of your relationship that you are building capacity in your communication areas. Those are the areas. And so be intentional about your dialogue and what you say, and make sure that words matter. Words matter. How you say what you say, it matters. And be sensitive in building these conversations and the dynamics to them, because how you say what you say is absolutely important. What's wrong? You okay?
Oh, no.
Yeah, what are you thinking about?
No, I just think that I just hear, and I could just be sensitive, but I just feel that sometimes, when talking to women, they feel trapped. They feel like they can't say things because it may not be interpreted the right way. And I'm just saying that when you're having difficult conversations, like, plow to get to understand somebody's truth.
Really? You think that that's true for women? I mean, because I know guys feel trapped all the time.
I believe it's both ways.
I feel like guys have so much to say hidden, and he don't say nothing, he don't talk,
That's
he don't
true.
communicate. And a lot of times he can't communicate because he's been trained not to. Because when he's tried to share, or when he's tried to be honest, or when he's tried to be open, or when he's tried to be vulnerable, or when he's made a mistake and he tries to admit it, and then later on that truth and that transparency, or if he's feeling something inappropriate in his heart, an attraction to a coworker, somebody shares something with him, DM them, an inbox, a text, something.
Yeah.
Can I share that with my spouse without her feeling like that I'm cheating, or I'm interested, or I want something, just so I can get it out my head, because sin grows in the dark, right? And so if I'm secretive about it, and if I'm not able to express it, then that's where the trapping comes. And so I'm not disagreeing that women may feel like they can't say something to their husband. I just want to also ante up and say that men equally feel like they can't communicate. This is why they communicate in so many other spaces and so many other ways, and why they communicate to so many other people. And then their wife is saying, oh, hey, why you don't never talk? And it's because he's all talked out. He did talk. He just talked to somebody else. And unfortunately, it wasn't you. And that's a problem. So make sure that you are intentional about your communication and intentional about your conversation, and words matter. So I have learned, and my wife really has to learn, because words is part of my love language. And so what she says to me, how she says it to me, it matters. It matters, the language, the way she speaks to me, the way she calls my name, the way she says my name. It matters to me. And so so I have to make sure that, and I want to make sure that it's always spoken and said in love. All right, let's move to the next one. So you got be prepared, be respectful and loving, be intentional about your outcomes, be truthful and transparent. And here's the next one. You okay? Be okay with silence.
Because some people
be okay with silence. I knew you was gonna say something. No, go ahead, finish. Right?
And that is big, because sometimes people just have to process what is being said, because sometimes it attacks the very thing that you think that you're so great at.
Yeah.
That no one has ever said this to me. What do you mean this isn't what you want to be? What do you mean that there needs to be more? And so I think that for a minute, it's a paradigm shift with people, and the person that is giving the information, it needs to be okay with some silence, but not the silence where you are not responding.
That's right.
It's not saying anything.
Yeah.
You're shutting down.
Yeah, shutting down. Silence is not what we mean. Silence and shutting down is not the same thing. Being okay with silence is about allowing someone to, like she said, process, not being non-responding, but process, to get silent, to hear what you said. And you can tell by paying attention to their body language. And it's important that you don't accuse them in this moment of not being
in the conversation.
That's right. Just because they didn't quickly respond or say something as fast as you did. I'm quicker with words than my wife is. And so sometimes when we're going back and forth in dialogue, she might pause and reflect and be silent. And I used to accuse her of being disengaged because she got quiet. And I had to learn that she knows that she has to be calculating with what she says to me. So she's very intentional about thinking about every word that comes out of her mouth before it comes out of her mouth, so that I hear it through the right way and it doesn't derail the conversation.
That was really good. Because it's true. I mean, because it's true. It's true for people who are silent and that are processing, that I'm really trying to process what you're saying to me and get past myself.
Yeah.
Like making sure that I don't say something stupid or something that is emotional that I'm going to regret later because I want to respond. And I think, and this is a thing for men, not you, but most men, that women are more articulate than men.
Yeah.
So some men are very intimidated in that space of conversation because they're like, I'm not thinking as quick as she is, so I can't respond as quick as she does. And so then she starts filling in words, versus women, sometimes you need to be okay with the silence for a moment.
Yeah.
Because he's processing. He's trying to figure out, okay, where is this at? Where am I at in this? And how am I going to like fix this and make this work? Like all of those kind of things are going in people's head. So just because they're not saying something to you, like my husband said, pay attention to their body language. Yeah. Are they leaning in, or are they like, you know, you can tell, you know, your spouse when they have checked out. Right. You know when they're no longer with you, you know that. And if they're not doing that, then you need to respect their silence.
Yeah. And also on the other side, while you're being silenced, you need to make sure that you stay engaged, right? With your body language. Like, yes, you can be silent, but you can nod. You can say, okay. They shouldn't keep asking you, are you hearing me? Do you listen to me? Because I do that to her all the time. Like, are you paying attention? Are you saying do you hear what I'm saying? And she has to remember to nod, stay engaged. Exactly. I can respect the fact that you're processing in your head, but don't use that as an excuse for you not to be engaged and not to respond and be responsive. I need to feel that you are hearing me, that you are sensing what I'm saying, and that you're paying attention, and that your body language is staying engaged. Yes, your body language is staying engaged, and that you're in the process. She do stuff like that, and I'm like, no, this ain't this kind of conversation, right? And so it's like having the intentionality, and I have to have a sensitivity not to read into that, but at the same time, if I'm being passionate, I want to make sure that our expressions in the conversation is actually being met, so that we're communicating. You're just not being quiet. I ain't gonna say nothing, because if I say something, then blah, blah, blah. No. You can be silent to process, but it's not allowed for you to be silent and check out or disengage.
Right. I had something, but I just, I was in my thought process.
Oh, yeah, whatever. So anyway, next one. So be okay with silence, all right? And then next, be sure to listen before you respond. Be sure to listen before you respond. Write that one down, because this one is hard. We do not listen. We do not listen to hear. We listen to respond. We do not listen to hear. We listen to respond. And we need to be sure that it's okay for us to listen, not just to respond, and listen before we respond.
And the way that you can actively listen, and that might be something you want to look up, how to actively listen to somebody is, I think I heard you say, or did you say this, or are you saying this, or let me repeat back to you what I think you said. Yeah. And that's not being a child, and that's not like somebody.
Oh, really?
I'm trying it. I have evolved, because the first time you said that to me, I was like, excuse me, sir, I am not a kid. You don't have to be saying stuff like that to me. But then, in all honesty, just being very honest and transparent, I realized that when he was talking to me, I was talking in my head the whole time. Yeah. Because I'm like, oh, you're not about to be one up on me. I'm about to come. Oh, I'm about to got to be a comeback. That's where your stance is. But if you sit and you realize, when your head, when you know in your mind, you starting to check out, or you starting to go and figure out a way that you can combat it, you need to command your mind to come back to the conversation. Bring it down those strongholds, because that's where you're going to miss information, and you're really showing your spouse that you're not being loving right now, because you're trying to win the battle. You're trying to win the fight. And in this is not a battle. It is to be married. It's not one person right, the other person wrong. It's so that we can be married
or be in a healthy relationship, because it's not just marriage. It's also in healthy relationships and healthy communications that people always listen to respond or to react. And then when it comes, well, tell me what what you heard me say. Tell me what you heard me say. And what they actually said back to you is nothing like what you said. And sometimes it's spot on, and that's great. And so you have to decide and discern between when they are listening to hear or listening to respond, and listening to respond is healthy. What?
I think also that this is something that you have to practice with each other.
Yeah.
That you may not get it the first time, but you have to be committed to get it. You have to be committed to get it. And it gets easier with time, but you have to be committed to get it, because you most of the time you're not going to get it the first time. Because it's just a lot of stuff that is going on in your head, and a lot of paradigm shifts and all that other kind of stuff that's going on. But you have to be committed that when we're having a difficult conversation,
we're going to end in a new space.
Exactly.
When we get out of this, we're going to be in another level, another dimension. Right. Our relationship has been tested. We've had some resolve. Right. We respond, we've worked through something difficult, and it's going to end or put us in a better place. And that's the goal. And so we have to keep fighting through to listen and to respond. If you're enjoying this, please make sure that you share. We just got 3 more, and then we're going to go. So make sure that you share with your timelines, get your friends involved. If this is good, we hope this is blessing you. We paid for this by doing it wrong and trying to figure out how to do it right. So we want to make sure that you get the advantage. Next, all right, so that was be sure to listen before you respond. Be sure to listen before you respond. Next one is be intentional about offering solutions. Be intentional about offering solutions, right? This is so important that when that time comes, as my wife said, not prematurely, not early, because sometimes we just want to offer a solution so we can shut it down. Sometimes I don't got time for this. Let me just offer a solution. It's a conflict, offer a solution. It's a situation at work, offer a solution. It's a situation at church, offer a solution. And solutions are part of the end goal, but they cannot be premature. Because if you offer a solution while I'm still telling you how I feel, or building my case, or sharing with you the intents or the emotions that are in my heart, then you have prematurely offered a solution that now is conclusive before the whole scenario is conclusive. Exactly. And so I don't feel heard, and I feel disrespected, and I feel rushed, and I feel hurried, and I feel like this isn't important or of value to you. And all of these other emotions are tied in. So offering a solution is a part of the end thing, but don't end the conversation, the difficult conversation, leaving it wide open. Make sure that there's a conclusion if it's possible. Even if it's not possible to have the solution right then, say, you know what, let's sleep on this. Let's get back to this another week from now. Let's come back. Let's write down some intentionality around what it is that we think we should do with this. And I'll give you space and time to process, because, hey, I've been carrying this for a while, and now I recognize you just heard this. And so I'll give you time. But that time measure has a clock, right? Because there's nothing more frustrating than giving someone time and they never come back to the time that you gave them. Yes, exactly. Because this is a tension that we express or experience. Because again, I like conflict for the sake of resolving and moving forward. Whereas my wife, she wants to fix it. And so what she'll do, even though she said what I think she does, because I won't put words in her mouth, she says she doesn't do it. But if I bring up a conflict or there's a tension, she will ask God to show her the way of how to fix it. And then she'll go and try to work to fix it and never come back to the issue. And so in her mind, because she did something about it, it is resolved. But in my mind, because we promised to communicate about it or get back to it, then it's still open. And that open-endedness never brings you to a healthy resolve where you can actually move forward with the pace. And so let's agree to have a conversation or a conclusion or about a solution that brings some closure, so we don't walk around with open-ended scenarios that are unresolved in our hearts or spirits, or one person in their head has brought about resolve. Is that right or wrong?
I mean, he says I pray all the time. I ask God for discernment and wisdom on what I shall do all the time. But I think that it is very important to hear the person out, because I feel that there are some, you could really be disrespectful if you don't kind of go to the conclusion of it all. And then to make sure that if you do say, okay, we'll get back to it, that you come back to it, that it is necessary, because it is to the other person very disrespectful.
Yeah, and the resolve of it is, and she said that reluctantly, but the resolve of it is sometimes it's not the solution that you think. Sometimes the solution is to come to an agreement to work towards it.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's not going to be fixed tomorrow. It's just, you know what?
We need
Let's
to make a decision.
exactly.
That we need to work on this.
Let's pay attention to this.
Yeah.
This is alive. This is well. This is happening. And now we need to make a decision that we will work on this. And if we find ourselves not working on it, we have permission to call each other on it without having this whole long drawn out whatever.
Again.
Yeah, we're not doing that again. We talked about that. Hey, remember, this is what I talked about. This is what I was saying to you. Here's an example. Here's a scenario. And you want to make sure that that's part of your resolve in finding a solution. All right. You okay? You doing good? All right. So being willing to give the benefit of the doubt. This is the next one. We only got two more. This is one. Now we have one more after this one. Be willing to give the benefit of the doubt. You got that one down? Be willing to give the benefit of the doubt. All right. So my wife is great at this, and she really echoes this and teaches this. Do you want to?
Yeah. So I always tell him, because he is the person that, you know, is very he can come at you about not come at you.
Speak your truth. Speak your truth.
No, I mean not
truth.
come at you. But what I'm saying is that whatever's on his heart, he doesn't like to harbor it. And so he wants it to come out, and he wants to be open and honest and transparent about it. Me, in the other sense, it makes me a little bit uncomfortable. You know, I'll be like, Jesus paid off, but it just makes me a little bit uncomfortable. But the thing that I say to him in it all is that this was not intentional.
Yeah.
Like, your spouse does not wake up and says, how can I jack up their day? And how can I just make the most miserable thing in my marriage, you know, worse? They don't do that. Give them the benefit of the doubt. Give them the benefit of the doubt that they just didn't know. They just didn't see. They just didn't know. Like, they just didn't. Versus assuming, oh, they're out to intentionally hurt me, and they intentionally wanted to do. They don't necessarily intentionally want to do that to you. And I don't mean this, because there are some spouses that are doing some kind of crazy witchcraft stuff like that. But for the most part of it, it's not true. Yeah. It's just not.
There are some people that do intend to make it difficult for you. And so even those people, I'm going to say, even the person that intended to offend you, intended to hurt you, intended to be rude towards you, still give them the benefit of the doubt in the initiation of the conversation. Assume the very best, because it tempers the way that you communicate. If you assume that, oh, they just didn't know, they were oblivious, they had no idea. If you just assume that and you lead with that in your heart and in your spirit, even if you're wrong, and even if they really had an intent, it's going to culture and it's going to shape the way that you communicate and the grace that you say it, the grace that you say, and then they will either respond with truth that, hey, yes, I was, or they will feel bad. The Bible says heap hot coals with love, that somebody that intends to do something to you, that you show them love when they show you evil. And so that's what you want to do. So you assume the best, you give the benefit of the doubt, and in giving the benefit of the doubt and assuming the best in the process, then you have given them grace for a scenario that perhaps they either deserve grace for or they didn't deserve grace.
But if you give grace, it's only going to come back to you.
Yeah. And so and so considering that they didn't mean to disappoint you is absolutely essential and important. They did not intend to disappoint you. Okay. And so here's the final and the last point. Be willing to make it better without blaming. All right. Now, this is difficult. You be willing to make it better without blaming. Remember, the outcome was this scenario, not my spouse. This scenario, not the situation, not particularly the person that you're engaging in this conversation with. And so, when you are willing to make it better without pointing the blame, then number one, what you do, here's the way that you surely do that. You ready? Here's how you do it. Number one, you own your part in the scenario. You own your part in the scenario. You begin because any scenario that you have an issue with, you have a part and a role in it. You have something you saw, something you didn't see, something you understood, something you didn't understand. And so you own your part in the scenario when you are making it better without blaming. You own your part in the scenario. You play your part, you play your role, and you don't point the blame. This is what I saw. This is how I felt. And perhaps I missed, or I said, or I did, or I didn't do. And you take your part in the situation. Even before you look for or ask for a situation from their side, you own your side. I'm going to take my part in it. I'm not going to blame. It's a behavior that I have adapted that is impacting the momentum of our relationship. Did you hear what I said? It is my behavior. It perhaps was not my intent. It was not me. It was my belief system. It's something I learned, something I heard, something I've harbored in my heart, something that have brought me to this point where now my behavior is stopping the momentum about how we are handling this. And I want to own it, and I want to deal with that behavior. I want to talk about the behavior, not the intent, not your motives, because I can't speak to your motives. Maybe you did not mean to do it. Maybe you did not plan to do it, but you did it. Maybe you did not want to do it, but you did it, and it hurt me, and it bothered me, and it made me angry, and it made me bad, and it did whatever it did. And so let's talk about how we can correct that behavior without necessarily being intentional in blaming the person, because that's when people get defensive.
Right. I was just about to say, and then that causes you to sometimes become a victim, and then you lose the intentionality of the conversation, and the outcome that is supposed to happen is that when you start taking it personal.
Yeah.
When you start feeling that, okay, this is I'm the person that caused this, and this is all about me, and it's not. And we can quickly take what, as the respondent, as a person the recipient, as a person receiving this information, you can become a victim in it, and then you turn it upside down.
That's right.
So that you don't have to ever really deal with you.
Yeah. Yeah, because that used to happen all the time. Early. My wife, it's just so horrible. I don't do nothing right. I can't do nothing. I guess I just can't do nothing right. And I'm like, what are you talking about? You can't. We're talking about one thing. Why? Because I have a thing that's that all of a sudden mean that you throw it out and you're so horrible.
Because to be honest, you want to derail the conversation. And to be honest with you, when you start feeling that way, you start feeling victimized, you really need to do some internal soul searching.
Yeah.
Because if somebody somebody is confronting you about something, that is a person that loves you. I'm not talking about your enemy. I'm not talking about somebody who's coming against you. I'm talking about a person that loves you and they want the best for your life. And if you're taking it as if you're going through a victim mentality, then you really need to do some soul searching. What is it inside of me that makes me feel like this is my fault, when they're just simply telling me what I did? I stepped on their toe. I didn't mean to step on their toe, but I did step on their toe. So now that I stepped on your toe, I'm just King Kong. Now I'm just the big old, no, you just stepped on my toe, and you just need to apologize. And I need you to understand that you stepped on my toe and how that affected me.
Yeah, because that's self-loathing. And then what people do in that is then we start arguing about what we're not even talking about. Like there's a whole conversation about something that we're not even communicating about.
And you got to shut it. You need to stop it.
Yeah.
You have to say that. What are we talking about? This is not what we're talking about.
That's not what we're talking about. We're not going to talk about what we're not talking about, so that we never finish talking about what we started to talk about.
Because that's where blaming starts coming in.
That's right. And so no blame game. You just commit that, hey, because of this conversation, we're going to make it better without blaming. So what can we do, and how did we get here, and how can we prevent to going for a place that you never want to go? And the way that we often arrive there is we start to think about, well, what is it that you want? What is it that you desire? What is it that you need? What do you wish? What do you want? What are your hopes? What are your dreams? And one bold question I like to ask my wife, is this the marriage that you always wanted? Am I making you smile? Am I giving you the love that you always prayed for when you was a single woman, when you was hoping to be married? Like, is that the swag that I'm giving off? Because if it's not, then it is not my intent to do anything less. I want to meet and exceed your expectations, to make sure that if there's areas where I'm lacking or slacking, the end game is that we make the relationship better. Right. And I don't have time to be pointing the blame, because pushing you down and making you feel less than, or making you feel like it's all your fault, is not going to help us as a relationship, because you're not going to come to the relationship with the strength that's needed to be able to work through the nuances. You're only going to come to it always feeling like you're not doing enough and not meeting the goals, right? And so this is what we do. So this is a talk today that we hope you enjoyed. We're out of time. I had a blast. As you can see, I was uber passionate about it. And I just really, Proverbs 15, a gentle answer deflects anger, but harsh words makes tempers flare. Gentle words are a tree of life, and deceitful tongue crushes the spirit. The goal in having a hard conversation is never to crush the spirit, but always to make the spirit stronger, more resilient. When we get to the other end, we're going to be better. Do not suppress, do not oppress your emotions, do not hide how you feel. It's necessary to have the necessary conversations. It draws you closer. It makes you stronger as a unit. It gives no room or no space for anything or anybody to get in between. Your truth is true, and transparency is the key to that. All right. So make sure that you live this truth. Share. Tell everybody. You got something to say, babe?
I do. And I feel that some people, after this conversation that we've had in relationships and also in marriages, that in your home, there are some words that you need to take back. That there has been some harsh words spoken in your household. There's been some harsh words spoken in your place of business, in your offices, things that you said to people, things that people have said to you. And I ask you to go into those spaces and just pray and just pull down all of those harsh words that came against what the outcome that you wanted the conversation to be. And I feel that very, very, very deeply, that you need to go back and just go back and grab things. Some of you have said a curse word. You said divorce in your household, and those words are lurking in your household. The names that you have called each other that you are just truly just ashamed of, that should have never come out of your mouth, but because of your soul and your heart, or the pinned up emotion that you had, you just let your emotions get the best of you. And you need to go into your households and your offices, and you need to cleanse those spaces from words that came against the very outcome of the conversation that you wanted.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, you know, if it was not successful, I mean, we jacked this up so many times before we just could sit here and tell you in 50 minutes or so, you know, what it is that we did, that what we learned is to be resilient. So if you tried it, it didn't work, and you don't give up. Go back to the conversation, the hard conversations. We've had to circle back to conversation. We got a conversation right now that we have to circle back on because it's not finished and it's not done. We go back. We've stayed up to 4 o'clock in the morning having a hard conversation, refusing to go to bed with angry, refusing to go to bed mad. At least maybe we didn't solve it all, but at least we had a resolve to work at making it better. And so sometimes that ends up happening to us and happening in our lives. And it's essential and important that you be resilient and that you have resolve to give your relationship a revolution. All right.
Because in your marriages, this is not going to end. This is not ending right now. It is forever until one of you leaves this earth. So you have a while to work on this, but you have to be committed to work on it. Yeah.
Don't always feel like you have to fix it right now, right? This is a lifelong commitment. Stop acting like girlfriend and boyfriends, and understand that some of these habits took a long time. Some of these behaviors and belief systems, they took a long time to get the way that they are. And if you're going to undo it, then you have to undo the behavior, and don't let the behavior undo your relationship. It's essential that you're willing to work through it and be resilient and be consistent in working through it and understanding this is a behavior and this is a belief that has crept into our thinking, and now we need to reprogram our belief system so that we could behave differently and get the outcomes that we want in the context of our relationship. All right, so we love you. Thank you. If it was good, share. Hey, Periscope, what's up? We stayed on, and we actually had 15 people on Periscope. Man, was a high number. I've never been on Periscope today. It was my only time IG. We had some mix-ups. I'm sorry. We're probably going to post this on our YouTube page later, but it's going to be up here for a little while, and then we're going to take it down. So share it, tell everybody. We wish we could take questions. I wish that the question, I don't think the feed is going fast enough to take questions. I guess we could try real quick. If you have a question real quick of something that we touch, you want to hit it up real quick, we can see if we can answer. We'll stay on just for a moment, and we'll see if we can answer Periscope or either on Facebook if there is any questions. If not, you can hit it on my page, and we'll do our best to try to answer later. All right. So we just want to make sure
question really quick
that we give a chance. Any questions?
A question earlier. How long do you allow your silence to rest there through?
Oh, how long, a question, how long, oh, from earlier, how long do you allow silence to rest? Again, I think I said, long as it is intentional and active in your listening, silence is okay. I mean, we've let silence just fill the room. I mean, because we both was either tired or out of words or out of emotions or didn't want to cut anymore. And so processing, so we just let silence and then we'll come back at it. So if you're engaged and committed to it, don't be afraid of silence. Silence means you're listening. Be afraid of disengaging or be afraid of shutting down. That's what you cannot do. And that's what you cannot allow. You can't allow what we say in our marriage. You can't say nothing, right? You can't say nothing.
And what he means by that is,
what's the matter?
What's nothing. Nothing.
What you thinking? Nothing. You thinking something. You better say what you thinking, because we're in a space where we're having communication, and communication is essential.
Okay, any more questions?
Good. Any more questions? All right.
Yep. It's what is your YouTube name?
Oh, my YouTube name is my name, Jermone Glenn. Jermone, not Jerome. Jermone Glenn. Jermone Glenn. You can go to my YouTube, Jermone Glenn. We do have a talk on there called 13 Things That We Learned about Marriage. Jermone Glenn. Go log on, subscribe, tell somebody. What else you got?
Who circles back to the conversation after silence? The person who initiated the conversation or the person who is thinking silently?
You know, that's a great question. I feel like that it is the responsibility of the people to circle back and have the conversation, both of them. Now, I say that if you agree to circle back, it's your responsibility to come back and don't leave it open. But if you do not come back and you told me you were going to come back, oh, give me 3 days and I'll come back. And you let 3 days happen, I got an attitude on top of the attitude because it's the 5th day and you didn't come back and you said you were coming back. But guess what? I'm coming back because you said you were going to come back. And that is the responsibility, to stay engaged in the process till you come to a resolve. And that's uncomfortable, as you see, for her. Because again, it's not because she's avoiding me, it's because she doesn't like conflict. And I keep telling her it's not conflict, it's growth. What else?
Firstborns and resolving conflict.
We both firstborns. What do you mean? You don't want to speak to that? Better hurry up.
Firstborns, I think that you have to understand that both of you are strong. And there's nothing wrong with being strong, but I think you have to understand that you do have to actively listen longer than what you did. You have to work on actively listening more than other people do.
No. As a firstborn, you have to learn not to take it personal, because you always the person that telling everybody what to do. And then when you are married to another firstborn, and now you're not the only one that's always telling somebody what to do, but you're also the one that's being told what to do. Then you have to make sure that you're not taking everything personal, that you're able to hear it, and that you're able to hear it without being defensive, because that'll shut the relationship down. We had like 5 more come through.
What about when someone wants to talk immediately, but you're not ready?
It doesn't matter. So if somebody else wants to talk immediately, you have 2 choices. You either can give them the grace or the courtesy that you would want them to give you if you wanted to talk immediately, or you communicate, hey, I'm not ready to talk, but I promise you, if you give me till 8 o'clock, or if you give me to tomorrow this time, we can talk about this all you want. And with that grace of communication, you take on the responsibility to make sure that you follow up on that, because once you do that and you do not do that, if you do not circle back, you won't be able to have that courtesy anymore. And now you're running the risk of trapping that person that really has something burning that they need to say. You're not being engaged. You're reading questions.
I know,
that person that has something that they need to say. You're running the risk of trapping them or shutting them down in their emotions, where they can't express what they need to say to you because you're not ready. And so it's not when I'm ready and not when you're ready. It's when our relationship is ready for the conversation.
And in that's a process, because I used to be that way. I would be like, you need to tell me 2 days, 3 days in advance before you have to, shed some light on something, and I need you to give that to me. And he was very nice about it, and he did it. And I found out that it really didn't matter. Yeah. It really didn't matter.
But that's me.
If I was ready or not, in a sense. But I would say that the whole, if you're trying to get ready for a conversation too long, then it's more of a personal thing than it is a we thing.
Yeah, because that's not every man. I can be forceful sometimes, and sometimes I'll find myself not wanting to fight it and I'll shut down. So that's not everybody. Some people will just retreat, and you have to know your spouse. If your spouse is the type that will retreat, if you're not ready to have a conversation, you're in a dangerous space, because you'll put them in a place where they feel like they can't communicate. That's dangerous. What about?
Oh, there's some Periscope questions.
God bless you. Thank you. Oh, I didn't see nothing there.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I don't know if you could go back.
What does it say?
How do you protect each other's feelings when addressing issues without attacking the individual? I think we talked about that, the whole blaming, making sure, but if you want to reiterate something.
Yeah, we did. No, I don't want if you scroll back up, maybe you came on later, but we talked about
being loving and respectful and making sure that you have an outcome. If you go back and read some of the
making it better without blaming. Yeah, making sure that you don't blame. You can't take everything personal. Take everything personal. Come on, we got 1 minute. We're not going longer than an hour.
How do you protect each other's? Oh yeah, somebody said that. Okay, so we got that.
We got that.
I don't know.
I don't know. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, Periscope. I missed your question. If you had a quick question,
if you could reiterate it just really quick
if
for
you're
Periscope,
still there,
because we didn't.
Yeah,
we're not very familiar with this, so we apologize.
Yeah, it's good. Well, hey, guys, I love you guys. Thank you for logging in. Thank you for tuning in to Relationship Revolution. We hope that this has been a great hour, better than reality, dumb reality TV on TV, talking about nothing, the unmarried this and the dodo heads that. We hope that this enriched your relationships in every capacity and every way. God bless you. We love you, and take care. All right, see you later. Peace.
You have to scroll.
You scroll up?
No, you gotta turn it off.